All right, everyone, welcome back to Out Loud. And as promised, we are now joined from New York City, the one and only Emory Parker. Emory, welcome to Out Loud.
Thank you so much, Kenny. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you because I've been following your music for a bit now, and your 2023 was really strong as an artist that kind of came out and laid down some really strong roots with some tracks that I think people have automatically fell in love with. But you're back now, 2024. EP is here, and the title track from it is with it's not the one for both the EP title and the new song. What has this journey been like for you to get to the point of having the EP out now with this song? Why call it not the one? Tell us all about it. Give us all the magic and all the tea.
For sure. So there is actually a distinction between Not the One, the EP title, and Not the One, the song. The EP has the parentheses in it, and I'll go into that a little bit later, but it's just been so much fun getting into the world of these characters. I'm originally a filmmaker. I went to film school and I run a full-time production company. That's my day job. And it's a ton of fun because I get to do all these different, I get to tell all these different stories. And in my music, I really try to do that same thing. So I bring my real emotion and some inspiration from real life, but also creating these characters who are going through really tough things most of the time. This is a pretty sad EP, but it's also about growing. And I think that's where this song comes from. It's about that self-actualization and realizing that you are worthy and you deserve better, and if you're in a bad situation or a toxic relationship, that you can walk away from it.
I would say that I know you say it's a sad EP, but I find that there's a real magnetism to your music and the songs that you've released so far, and even the new one, that you're not afraid to kind of get into the trenches, talk about what it is that you need to say, and you do it in a way that like I said, there's a magnetism to the music because you're really sucked into your story that you're, delivering. Because the music itself, also melodically, is really there's a palpableness to it that there's teeth. I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say. And I'm wondering where you see yourself kind of going, this being, as you say, a sad EP. I find there's a real strength to it, and that strength in that sadness. But I also see glimmers that of where you may be going at some point in time. Uh, that's a little, there's cheekiness, but like there's a real, I guess, pick up your flag, wave it, and plant it in the ground. And there's a real kind of, I guess, activism, but without it being attacking. I guess is that fair? Or
Yeah.
I know I'm wordy, but
No, that makes sense. I like to also have a gravitas to it. And I also come from a theater background. So a lot of the inspiration behind the actual music and the melodies comes from all the great theater composers that I've listened to and grown up on, like Sondheim, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Julie Stein. I'm a big fan of theater, and I think music is so important for storytelling as well. You want to see that arc in the music itself. So that's something I'm always trying to do. And I work with a really great producer, Brandon Merluccio, also known as Lucid Production. And he totally gets that vision and puts in tons of time into finding those little details that make the music really shine and feel like it's part of that world, creating a world with that music. So yeah, I mean, I think something that I've really leaned into is the rock element of my music. I'd say rock or pop rock is kind of at the center, and everything kind of stems from there. When I originally started out doing music, I wasn't really sure what genre I was going to be going into. So I just made songs that I felt resonated with me. And, I kind of went in a few different directions, but I feel like it all kind of centers around that. And as far as the music that's coming next, it's going to be different. There's rock, there's also that cheeky element to it. I have like a couple of songs that are a little more campy and like, in your face and fun. And I think that's the exciting thing about being an artist especially being an independent artist, is that you have the freedom to explore all those different genres and styles, and you don't have to be limited to this box that someone puts you in.
Yeah, there's a definite wink, a little like knowing wink that's in the music, and I really dig that. And I think that sometimes, surface level, we'll listen to music, and we take what we take from it, right from the get go. But like when you listen to yours back, you can listen to your music back. Oh, and Natalie's a really great example of that. And I have no idea about the song per se, but there's a lot of layers that's in that song, and there's moments where you kind of you shift in and out of different. I guess if you were listening to it, you could take a few different things away from it, but definitely a little bit of a wink and a knowing wink that's in the music, and I find that really very clever. I
Thank you.
think that your music is also music that I think people can get behind. There's a real, I guess it's not overproduced, but it's also not, getting caught up in its own, I guess, hype, or not taking it as too seriously, but you're
Mm-hmm.
getting it out there. And I think it's probably comes from that, you wanting to deliver something you would enjoy listening to, which
Yeah.
I think resonates, especially I think, with younger people. Really, it comes out, it's quite strong. The rock element totally helps.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really, that's where this comes from. I also love artists like Avril Lavigne, Brandy Carlisle, Renee Rapp, Taylor Swift, of course. That's heavy inspiration for Natalie. And Natalie is a song that I wrote for my partner. Her name is Natalia. So I tweaked it a little bit to rhyme better in the song, but that's a very fun, special story about our own relationship and how it developed from being friends to now almost 7 years together. So it was a special one to write, and I really wanted to convey the the elements of our relationship. And we have a great sense of humor. We have a great time. We spend a lot of time together. We work together also, but we have so much love for each other, and it was just really fun to make that song.
It's a standout for sure. And yeah, the humor comes through. Like I said, there's that little wink that's in there that I think is super clever. I definitely, you have a great hand at writing and knowing who you are and what you want to say.
Thank you.
You mentioned the difference between the EP, Not the One, and the song, Not the One. What's that difference? What's happening there?
Yeah, so I couldn't come up with a title for the EP, actually. I had the 4 songs ready to go, and I was actually in a session with my producer, and I said, I think we need one more song to this. And it needs an ending, and it needs something to really anchor it and leave people, wanting more, but also thinking about everything they had just heard. And we were taking a break from a really frustrating time of trying to produce something for Drinking Alone. We were trying to get something right, and we needed a moment. So he just started playing these chords on the electric guitar. And he's like, all right, get up on the mic, just sing something, sing whatever comes to your mind. And we also had a discussion earlier in the day about how when he moved to Nashville, that he only had one drinking glass with, in the packaging. It was in bubble wrap. And when he was undoing the bubble wrap, it broke. And he was talking about this image of the glass on the floor, just having moved and uprooted his life. And it was a difficult time. And somehow that sparked the whole song of Not the One, along with whatever I was going through at the time, and this desperate need to want to be seen and validated for what I was going through. So that really intense song kind of came out of that one session, with tweaks later on, of course. And as I was thinking of what to name the EP, I was thinking, I could name it Not the One without the parentheses, but then I think it would take away from the songs that are about the one, or potentially finding the one, or you maybe are not the one. It's kind of like however you interpret it, but if you look at each song, it's some version of trying to find the right person, trying to be the right person. And it doesn't always work out like that. It's not always the easiest thing to find someone who you really care about, who you really click with in any kind of relationship, not only in a romantic relationship, but with friends. People come and go, people hurt you. And as I've lived in my life experience, I feel like I've had a lot of moments where I feel like somebody is the one, and then they go around and hurt me, or, and then you move on to the next person. So it's kind of like exploring those different stories of people who are searching for that, and then ultimately realizing that you're the one that you're stuck with. You are you, and that should be good enough. That should be sufficient, without having to necessarily find someone else to give you validation. Even if it's someone who you love, you have to kind of look inside and see yourself and appreciate yourself for who you are.
Well, I think it's a great message first and foremost. And I think that, when you think about music, and again, like I said, you are not afraid to talk about what it is that you want to talk about. And one of the things that I love about your music is that, and I understand why everybody's different, but you really represent yourself in your life and your experiences really well. Like I said, you don't try to hide it. So much to the point where I can hear and I can imagine other, young people hearing your music and being able to hear themselves represented in it and get it, and all of the different kinds of stories of what it is that you're putting out there. And I think that's really powerful, because I think that it's needed. You don't try to dress it up. You just kind of like, here we go, we're going in, for the kill. But again, like I said, it's never in a over the top kind of way. It's very focused, I guess, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
With this EP and everything that's kind of coming, along with it, being and not just I guess a queer person in music, but also a woman in music. The challenges are there, but you're experiencing them, I'm sure, on a few different, levels. How are you finding the reception, I guess, from your end as the artist? Both as a woman, as a queer woman, with just having it out there, having it received, and getting it moving, and getting it out to a larger audience.
I think it's always been part of my mission. I came out when I was around 19. I was in college and was starting to write music at that time. That stuff is no longer on Spotify, but it was very pivotal in my process of self-discovery and figuring out who I was. So after a couple of years, when I finished college, I knew I wanted to get back into music. And I knew that I wanted my music to be for queer people, but not in a way that it was super heavy handed and constantly talking about, feeling sorry for myself or having to come out. Those stories I think have been told, and there's a lot of great ones, but it's something that as a queer person can be traumatic to hear over and over again about, feeling like you're struggling in that way. So I feel like I wanted to focus on life experiences and what it's actually like to live as a queer person and live as a queer adult. When I was growing up, I didn't have that uh, representation, at least in pop music or pop rock music. And it's only now in my 20s that I've found artists like Brandy Carlisle who can just, take your whole heart and just give you a big hug with her music. Like being at Madison Square Garden, listening to The Joke and seeing all of the rainbow lights, everybody in the stadium singing to her is just like, it was the best feeling I've ever had probably in my life, to just feel seen and feel safe, and feel held by her music. And so I want to do that for other people. I also want to have fun with it. You probably see on my social media accounts that I've been posting a lot, and I don't let being a woman or being a queer person hold me back in any way. I embrace it, and honestly try to find people who would also benefit from hearing my music or connect. And I've had some incredible people reach out to me, just real people who send me messages like with the song Natalie, and said, I feel so seen by that. My partner and I had a very difficult time getting together, and we finally found each other and we're able to live authentically and love each other. And I think there's just the feeling that I get from those messages is better than anything else that I could get. I'm something I would really love to do coming up in the next year is perform live, because I haven't really had that opportunity. But for now, I'm really just trying to reach those people who need to hear this music, and also give them stories that are not not just about the basics of being a queer person. We're so multifaceted. We have real emotions just like everybody else. We have real life experiences, and we live our day-to-day lives. Like, it's nice to see a song that's just kind of about real life, and not necessarily tied to the queer identity, but you can feel it in the way that the song is experienced, or maybe in the way that I'm singing it. But I think, like, to be able to just relate to people in the community without having to constantly explain, we are gay, we're queer, we do this. It's like, we're just people, and I'm proud to be queer, and I'm proud to tell stories that make a difference and impact in somebody's life.
It's the normalization, I think, that I really enjoy within your music too. And I think that's what it is. It's like you treat it just like any other story that would be there. You're not trying to set it up and put a banner on it like, here comes the queer part, like, we're going to talk about it. It's just woven into the fabric of the song and into the music very seamlessly. And I think that's what's really incredibly effective about it. And I think you're right. Nobody wants to hear the same tragedy kind of like over and over again, but they do want to hear that they're being represented. And I think
Yeah.
that's what you have here is you strike a really great balance for it. So, which I'm sure is at times probably, tricky to do. And probably some of those earlier tracks that you're talking about, that it's so funny when artists will say that, yeah, they're no longer on Spotify, because
Yeah.
you start out and you're writing and you're getting your music out there and you're so excited to get it out there. It's like, yeah, I must have it out there in the world. And then you have some time and you become a little bit more seasoned. You're kind of like, oh geez, maybe I need to take those down. Maybe those aren't the best reflection of
Yeah.
me as an artist.
But it's part
um,
of the process. It really
yeah,
is.
it totally is. And I think that, I think you get to that point, but I think it's absolutely endearing when artists kind of look and they kind of go like, oh yeah, that was a time. And I think that that's great. I think it shows that human side so much to an artist, because nobody's perfect, and you have to have a starting place, and nobody comes out of the gate writing this manifesto or maestroness. And you have to have your stumbling blocks, and you also have to have your room to grow as an artist. So
Yeah.
I think it's awesome when I hear that all the time. Now, song is out, EP is out, people can run and get it. It's on Spotify, it's all over social media, but I think we need to hear it. But before that, I'm curious, if you were going to request a song or an artist, and you've mentioned Brandy Carlisle, so it may be in that vein, but who would you request if you were going to pay it forward and say, I think people need to listen to a little bit of X? Who would it be?
Oh, I have one for you. Have you heard Chappel Roan?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I love Chappel Roan. Oh my God. Anything
Uh,
she does is magic. I love her new album. I love Red Wine Supernova. Talk about a cheeky artist with really fun lyrics, fun dance music, but also so deep. If you listen to the lyrics in some of those songs, that's what I have on repeat right now.
I think Chappell Roan is one of those artists that underappreciated, underknown, like in terms of like how many people out there actually are familiar with Chappell Roan. I think that number is going to grow exponentially as things kind of go on. But
Yeah.
wow, what a pistol as
Yeah.
of an artist. There's so
Mhm.
much in the wheelhouse that's probably we haven't even seen yet. That
Yeah.
exciting to see.
Hmm.
So we will play you some Chappell Roan. But before we leave, I do want to ask you to introduce your own song. But before I even do that, I want to say thank you for joining me and talking about the music. And this has to be part one of a multi-part segment, because there's so much of your music to dive into. I can't wait to see where you go next. As I said, I get glimmers in the EP that really excite me. So I can only imagine what you've got up your sleeve. And yeah, we need to get you out there live. So folks, venues
Yeah,
need to start doing some booking.
I'm on it. I'm on it. Thank you, Kenny.